Okay, so this is the Insta360 One camera, and we're gonna do a review on it. Insta360 was kind enough to send this camera out for me to try out, to take on rides, and see what I thought about it and give my honest opinion. They were really cool about it, super helpful, so shout out to those guys. I'm a mountain biker, so I'm gonna give you a mountain biker's perspective. Hopefully you've come to this video in order to assess whether or not the Insta360 One is gonna be good for you as a mountain biker recording your videos. What I can do to help you answer that is talk about what I liked about it and what I didn't so much like about it. Before we get to that though, quick little spec check. If it's not already clear, it's a 360-degree camera, so it captures that field of view. It's maybe targeted a little bit more towards filming that field of view and then cropping out your 16:9 rectangle from that, you know, directing that virtual camera around that after the fact, and also using that field of view and software to stabilize the footage and make it look super smooth. You use a native device, iOS or Android, to edit the footage. The Insta360 ecosystem does include a desktop application. I don't know if it's worth talking about. That thing, just that piece of software just wasn't very good. Costs about 300 American dollars. So there's your price tag. Anything else I want to say about that? No. One real quick thing, I'm gonna try to avoid getting into Rylo versus Insta360. There's definitely a lot of overlap between the two cameras, but we're gonna try and concentrate on this guy. So let's get into the goods and the bads. So one really good thing about this is it's super easy to film with. You can mount this pretty much anywhere and get a pretty cool shot. Helmet, handlebars, on your chest or whatever. Hit the button, you go. Easy, done. You also get some really cool shots with this guy. I know, like, when I posted stuff on Instagram, people were like, what is that? That's freaking cool, how did you do that? So that's always really neat. Another good thing is the battery life on this thing is forever. Easily an hour, I know that because it flew off my bike and filmed the Snow Summit sky for about an hour. Yeah, so good battery life. It's also more rugged than you would think. When it came out of the package, I thought this thing isn't gonna last that long, but I've smashed it into the ground, got ran over when it was lying there lonely, and it held up pretty well. I did scratch the lens when I crashed, so I can't really use that side of the camera anymore. Decently rugged. One thing I did like about this guy is, like we were saying before, you use the software to direct a camera, a virtual camera inside that 360-degree sphere. You can go into this mode where you're actively moving the camera around by moving your phone around. While at first that seemed a bit gimmicky to me, I actually found that was a really easy way to direct that camera around. Instead of like picking points and having to like actively set points for each part of the footage, I could just like use this. So I thought that was pretty cool. So those are some really good things about this guy. Let's talk about a couple of things that I didn't really like so much about the Insta360 One. The workflow, like the Rylo, just wasn't that great for long footage. If you're just doing something pretty quick, just a couple of minutes, and then you want to pull a clip out of that and then share it on Instagram or something, works pretty well. Anything longer than that, it does get a bit tedious. Another issue with this was the audio. Before I put my dead cat on there, it sounded like I had a wild turkey chasing me down the trail. And while the lens pubes kept the turkeys away, I occasionally got one in there from time to time. The image quality is one of the big things. It just, you know, I would say even on a phone, even on an Instagram post, it looks okay. Right? It looks passable, but anything on a bigger screen, viewing it on a bigger screen, it just, in my opinion, it just isn't good enough. Instagram, cool, anything else, not so great. And I think for me, the biggest hit on this camera, and I think generally the 360 cameras, is it's really hard to tell a good story with just this footage. I feel like the footage, while it looks really interesting, it feels kind of video gamey, kind of first-person shooter, which again is cool, but that's cool for like 30 seconds to a minute. Try and tell a full story, like try and tell a story about your day riding with your buddies with just the Insta360, and it becomes really hard to do. Just not great for storytelling, and for me that's a big hit. So yeah. So then, you know, that kind of brings us to what is this good for? Who's it good for? I know like Casey Neistat did this thing on the Rylo where he like bifurcated like the two types of users, you know, the aspiring content creator and then the pro content creator, and he felt like the Rylo 360 and by extension the Insta360, he felt like it kind of didn't fit in there, because if you're going to spend the $300 or so, I think the Rylo is $500 bucks, but if you're going to spend like the $300 bucks, why would you buy this instead of just a point and shoot? And if you're a pro, what would you buy? So I feel like as mountain bikers, as part of like an action sports segment, we fit somewhere in there, right? If you're an aspiring rider, or even if you're a pro rider, it seems like this is a good tool to feed the social media machine. So you can get a cool shot, something where you don't have to tell a big old story. It's just like, oh look, I went down this cool trail and here's some cool footage of that. My buddy was chasing me, and I can easily later just turn around and look at them. I have a little mini production house with me wherever I go. So it seems like it could be good for that. It is cheaper than the Rylo, so that's maybe a factor that plays into it. For me, because I do kind of work with GoPros and I find that I can tell a pretty decent story with 1 or 2 GoPros, if I use this, it'll be just for supplemental footage, B-roll, stuff like that. So hopefully that'll help you out. That'll help you like decide on the Insta360 One or generally any kind of 360 camera to film mountain bike footage. Yeah. So yeah, hope you dug it.